Welcome back to another video on the Z4. In this video, I will be going over a fault code that came up for the Upstream Bank 2 AFR sensor. A few days ago, I was driving this car doing some errands, and I got a check engine light. I used my scanner. I used this scanner to be exact. For the price you pay, this thing is actually pretty good. It's not going to replace your extremely expensive, like, $300 Snap-on code reader thing, but for the 20 or something bucks, you can't go wrong with these. So I'll show up on screen here the problems that I was having. I think it was a P3027, something like that, which has to do again with the O2 sensor, or I think it's technically an air-fuel ratio sensor, the Upstream one on Bank 2, which is right there. This is the Bank 1, so it's just the one for 4, 5, and 6. This one is for 1, 2, and 3, which the wiring runs up there, and the gray one here is for Bank 2. The black one here is for Bank 1. So to confirm this, I wanted to do a couple things. First, I wanted to check the pins to see if there were any differences in resistance between the two. The other thing that I would like to do is check the voltage output from the sensor between this one and this one. I haven't been able to find a wiring diagram or a pinout code that will tell you what each pin is. I'm still going to be looking into that. I don't want to run the engine with those unplugged and just test each one. I want to avoid that. So another thing I did to try and confirm that that is in fact my problem back there is I removed the spark plugs. So this is going from cylinder 1 to cylinder 6. Now I just replaced these in the spring, and I think they all look pretty good. There's some darkness on the metal part, but overall, I think those look pretty decent. Really what I'm looking for is there anything from Bank 1 that's different from Bank 2? So if these ones were all black and carboned up, or if there was just one of these that was looking really anomalous, and that these three were fine, then I would know that maybe there's something here that's causing that sensor to fail. Because sensors don't just fail, there is usually something that causes them to fail. That's not always the case, but I would say it's more than often the case. All right, so looking at the data now, you can see that Bank 1 is in closed loop after it warms up, and Bank 2 remains in open loop because it cannot read that sensor. To me, that pretty clearly shows that it is the sensor that is faulty, and it isn't some, random whoops code that the engine throws out because there might have been just a misfire or something going on. Because these, any engine will do that, where something will cause it to, not run right for just a few seconds. It'll throw a code, and then it goes back to running normally, but it holds the code until you clear it. Sometimes it self-clears, and then it's like it never happened. That has happened to me on this car a couple times, and it has happened on my 5 Series a couple times. So I did manually clear the code, and within, I would say, even 500 feet of driving after I cleared the code, it came right back. So that's the other thing that makes me quite confident that this is a real problem, and it's not a ghost problem or some sort of a phantom issue. Right now you're going to see a clip of looking down the spark plug holes to look at the pistons. Piston number 1 looks reasonably clean, about what I would expect. The top of cylinder number 2 looks suspiciously clean. I'm not going to say too much more about that. Cylinder 3 looks kind of dirty. Cylinder number 4 also looks very dirty. Cylinder number 5 looks so-so, but still kind of dirty. And cylinder number 6 looks all right, I guess. To me, there's nothing telling about the spark plugs nor the cylinders that would indicate any major issue. The only one of these cylinders that looks dramatically different than the others would be cylinder number 2 being suspiciously clean, but my problem is on bank 2, not bank 1. So I don't really know what to take from that other than I don't think that's a factor. So taking a quick look here, I've got the new part. This is the NTK24333. It is made in Germany. It's a good quality unit. This one was about $150. I originally ordered a part through Amazon, the same part number from NTK, and I received a used product in an open container, so I immediately sent that one back. I have not yet been reimbursed, but I will be in contact very quickly with the seller if that does not get resolved soon. So this one I bought directly from NTK. I wanted to do that originally, however, I couldn't find where I could buy from them the first time, which is why I had to go to Amazon to find the part. And then for whatever reason later, when I looked again, I could find how to buy this. So I have that here. So next here is the O2 sensor socket. You don't need one of these, but it does make the job easier. I don't know for sure if this one is going to fit, but I figure it's an inexpensive tool and it's good to have it in my toolbox as a backup, you know, because this may save me one of these days. Other than that, the only tools I brought with is pliers, some 1/4 inch stuff, and then a 3/8 inch drive ratchet for this. So I'm going to get to removing the old part. Here's a close-up view of the O2 sensor here. You'll just be able to see part of the head of an e-Torx. This, I believe, is holding in this heat shield. There's going to be one here and then one more back there. Right there. I think that's all that's holding this piece on. I think it's stainless steel. Hand holding is the only way that I'm going to be able to get a close view in there. So you're just going to have to take kind of the back seat on this one. All right, removing that was a little more frustrating than I wanted it to be. I did end up dropping a socket down in there, and yeah, you know that's never fun because I don't know how easily it's going to be to get back. So you see the 2 fasteners here. I'm sure you can make it out with that being mounted up like this, how that is supposed to go on. So, and in case I didn't get it in the footage before, to get that off, you need a deep well 6mm spline or E8. To get the back one, you either need a 6mm normal length spline, or you need a normal length e-Torx. E8 again is the fastener head. You see that socket down there? That's the one I dropped. Way down there. Through the power of electromagnetism, I was able to retrieve it, thankfully. So next is to remove that O2 sensor. I've already tried this socket on the forward one, and it's a bit of a squeeze. This slot cutout is not quite wide enough for these O2 sensors, and this socket is also not quite long enough or deep enough to prevent, you know, I'm really going to be pushing on that end there. And if the rear one is already broken, I guess it doesn't make a lot of difference if I break it more, but I'm worried more about installation. For the sake of easier access, I think I'm going to remove the strut tower bar here. All right, removing that strut tower bar and then that bracket that holds this heat shield in place, I should have a lot better access to that O2 sensor now. To try to make this easier on myself, I'm just going to bring out the 1/2-inch drive. You know, this doesn't look particularly bad. It's got that tan, chalky color. It does have a little bit of discoloration right there and right there. But, I mean, really, that looks like it should be fine. All right, so I'm gonna try and give you, sorry, I didn't have the flash on there. I'm going to try and give you a view inside the intake manifold there. So that is a look at the catalytic converter, and that looks all right to me. I'm not a catalytic converter expert, but I imagine if there was something wrong, it would look pretty obvious. So before I unseal this one, I just kind of want to make sure that everything is going to match up correctly. Now, I already know that the color is different. This one has black insulation, this one has gray, but I don't think that makes too much difference here. This might actually be the one with the longer cable, which would be kind of the one for the front, or bank 1. Threads look the same. The sensor end looks the same. The crimp looks the same. There is some writing on this one here. So this one is also Germany. And then the connector. That connector also looks identical to me. So I think we're good to break open this package. Sorry, I just had a pause there just to see if there was anything here in the instructions that said either to use or not to use anti-seize. The only thing it really says is do not use any compounds on or around the sensor unless labeled as oxygen sensor friendly products. I don't have anything on hand that I know for a fact is oxygen sensor friendly, so I am going to go without anti-seize. I cannot say for sure, but I don't think any anti-seize was used on this from the factory. I do not know enough about O2 sensors to say whether it's common practice to do it, either in the aftermarket or from the factory. I don't see anything wrong with running it without. If I find that I need to add some on, if I learn something else, or if someone wants to tell me in the comments, please feel free to do so, and I can always, take this one back out and add some. All right, the cable on the new one looks to be about 4 to 6 inches longer, and the insulation on the old one is pretty slippery, like normal plastic. This one is very tacky. It's very sticky. And it looks like they both have the same 6-pin layout, which is excellent. And this is what the new one should look like. The one that I received in the mail before. Actually, no, it already looks like this thing has some anti-seize on it. So whatever I said about anti-seize before, forget about that. I'm sure they have a way of testing these before they come in or before they ship them out. So let's get this thing installed. I think it's pretty obvious, but don't cross-thread this. That's probably one of the worst mistakes you could make with just about anything on an engine. As you can see here from the instructions, you're supposed to go finger tight, and then anywhere from half a turn to 3/4 of a turn. And that looks like it goes for the M18, which is the one that I have, the M12 version. Finger tight and 3/4 to 1 turn on the M12. The M18 version, which is what I have, is half a turn to 3/4 of a turn. As you saw, I did have to concede and use the O2 sensor socket again, just because there was no way that wrench was going to have enough room in this engine bay. Hopefully I didn't hurt anything. I doubt I did. I just don't like bending wires that sharply. I will also be replacing the zip tie that I broke to be able to get the insulation out of the way. And now I shall reroute the wiring. Next I will replace the heat shield. Those two E8 Torx, they do bolt straight into the cylinder head, so be very careful not to over tighten those, because the cylinder head is made of, what is the cylinder head, magnesium or is it aluminum? I can't remember, it's one or the other. All right, and that is all it takes to replace the O2 sensor. It really isn't all that much. I do still need to replace the strut tower bar, but before I do that or much else, I want to run the engine and make sure that it is going to come up into closed loop mode on bank 1 and bank 2. So let's cut to some data footage of the first startup. So here goes the first startup. I hear a lot of lifter tick. There's also some smoke, but that's just because I spilled some oil on the header. That is a lot of lifter tick. I'll let it warm up a little bit. All right, now I'm back here in the cabin. I didn't take any video before, but I mean, you should know what a check engine light looks like. It is now off. I have taken some screen capture of the sensor data and I'll pop that up on screen now, and you can see it is in closed loop on ECU 1. There is no more ECU failure or open loop due to system failure like there was originally. So I will call this, for now, a fixed unit. But I do want to drive around a little bit more, put a few miles in the car, just to make sure that it is, in fact, the correct fix. But as of now, it seems like it works. All right, one final look at the engine here. Nothing looks out of place. I can't imagine it would, because this is more of an electronic system replacement, not a mechanical system replacement. But it's always good to have a look. It does smell a little bit like oil. I think I accidentally spilled a little bit of oil on the header. Not a big deal. So I think I'm ready to close this one out and put the engine cover back on. And now that this thing is running, honestly, smoother than it has in a long time, I think I am ready to continue with the magnesium valve cover installation. I am still waiting on parts, believe it or not. That has been the holdup this entire time, is just waiting on parts to ship. And I am, very upset with my current supplier for not even shipping them yet, because they only ship full orders, which is BS, but life moves on. So until next time, see ya.